The VRX fleet slid into the Sol system under cloaked impulse, their massive hulls casting unseen shadows across Saturn's rings. 30 warships, each bristling with enough firepower to level continents, advanced with the confidence of seasoned conquerors. For centuries, the Dominion had expanded outward, consuming one fledgling civilization after another. Earth looked no different. Overlord Zirthal stood on the bridge of the dreadnought VRX Dominion, arms folded, mandibles twitching with anticipation. His species didn't believe in diplomacy, only dominance. He observed Earth on the central holoscreen, a pale blue sphere hanging serenely in the dark. "They have no planetary shields," noted Subcommander Vrykal. "A few orbital husks. One thermal station on the moon. No fleet activity." Zirthal's voice was sharp. "Transmit the surrender sequence." Standard format. In a sealed room beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Commander Alara Cade leaned back in her chair, the glow of her console casting her in cold light. Her dark eyes scanned the VRX transmission. "Surrender to the VORN Dominion or be extinguished. You have 60 seconds. She smirked. 60 seconds? Gracious hosts. Across from her, the synthetic voice of Nemesis, Earth's most advanced defense AI, echoed. "Fleet profile confirms VRX standard invasion protocol. They perceive us as unarmed. Exactly as designed." Ilara nodded. "Initiate false front protocol. Let's give them a show." From the VRX command deck, the Earth reply came as a voice-only message in intergalactic trade common. "Thank you for your interest in Earth. Please take a number. The Girl Scouts were here first." The bridge fell silent. "Was that sarcasm?" Vrykal asked. Zirthal's mandibles clicked once. "Primitive humor. A final defiance. Shall we commence orbital fire?" "No. I want prisoners." He raised a clawed finger. "Deploy ground teams. Begin extraction. I want Earth's leadership groveling at my feet by nightfall." Alara watched the landing feeds from 10 civilian zones, each a decoy, carefully constructed to appear soft and unprepared. Vorn drop pods slammed into field streets, parking lots. Troopers emerged in gleaming exo-armor, weapons drawn. The humans waiting for them smiled. Some offered tea. One elderly man waved a broom at a squad and muttered, "Kids these days." Confused, the soldiers scanned buildings. Life signs fluttered across their HUDs. Too many, too chaotic. One trooper froze as his helmet fed him an image of a 7-legged creature clinging to the wall behind him. He turned. Nothing. His heartbeat spiked. Biosensor screamed. He collapsed, convulsing. The squad medic scanned him. Hallucinations, his neural index just inverted. "Atmospheric toxin?" "No," the medic whispered. "His suit's sealed." Alara tapped a command. "Activate dissonance fields. Low frequency. Let's see how brave they are when the walls whisper back." Above Earth, cloaked satellites pulsed waves through the ionosphere, silent to humans, unbearable to alien minds. Ancient fears bloomed in engineered frequencies. Troopers began hearing voices in their own tongue, voices that mimicked their thoughts but twisted them. One VRX soldier fired wildly into the shadows of a tool shed. "They're inside my skin!" he screamed. Another unit radioed in, requesting extraction. "These creatures smile too much." Zirthal reviewed the first combat logs, brows furrowed. "Minimal resistance. But anomalies." He tapped one replay. The drone feed showed an empty street. A human child blew bubbles toward the lens, giggling. The feed scrambled, then cut to static. Vrykal cleared his throat. "Perhaps their technology is more." "No," Zirthal snapped. "Their minds are weak. We crush them, not flinch at illusions." On the moon, Alara watched it all unfold, arms crossed. "They'll call this a haunting before they call it war," she said. Nemesis spoke. "They will soon escalate." "Let them," she murmured. "We've shown them shadows. Let them reach for light." In one corner of rural Nevada, a VRX squad tried to secure a power station. They found it abandoned yet active. Doors opened by themselves. Screens flickered with Vorn's script. A message blinked in red. "We see you." That night, 5 squads vanished. Not a trace remained, no bodies, no gear, just boots and weapons in neat little piles. By midnight, Zirthal called a closed session with his war council. "This planet defies analysis," one engineer said. "There's no centralized military. No command structure. But coordinated resistance. Psychological tactics that shouldn't exist here." Another murmured. "It's like they're waiting." Zirthal slammed his claw on the table. "Enough. We strike hard and fast at dawn. Orbital bombardment. Then ground purge. No more riddles." Back on the moon, Alara stood alone on the observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. She didn't smile this time. "They're going to fire tomorrow." "Yes," Nemesis replied. She stared out at the quiet blue sphere. "They've seen ghosts. Next, we show them monsters." Overlord Zirthal stood motionless on the command deck of the VRX Dominion. The fleet hovered above Earth, engines humming, weapon systems armed and awaiting the final order. Outside, the stars looked calm. Inside the ships, everything was beginning to come apart. "Status on ground teams?" he asked. Sub-Commander Vrikael hesitated before replying. 17 units out of contact. 12 reporting psychotic breaks. 4 requesting immediate evac due to environmental anomalies." Zirthal turned slowly, his voice a low growl. "Anomalies?" Vrikael tapped the console. "Some report disembodied voices. One squad claims a building shifted around them. Another claims their weapons melted while still holstered." Zirthal bared his fangs. "Enough games. Prepare the orbital barrage. They want fire, they will drown in it." Alara Cade watched from her lunar post as Earth's skies shimmered faintly. The VRX fleet had begun charging their ion cannons, heat blooming in ultraviolet arcs. "Here it comes," she said quietly. Nemesis responded. "Orbital arrays locked. Phase resonance systems at ready. Shall we proceed?" "Only when they pull the trigger. Let them make the first real mistake." Within the VRX fleet, chaos bloomed. On board the destroyer Krexel, a technician screamed and tore at his own helmet, insisting someone was inside the comms, someone speaking his childhood memories in his dead mother's voice. A security officer shot him in the chest mid-panic. The others didn't react. They were too busy watching the bulkheads breathe. On another vessel, air recyclers began pumping a faint, sweet-smelling mist. It was harmless to humans. For the VRX, it unlocked ancient instincts, ancestral fears coded deep in their DNA. Panic set in. Some began hallucinating insects crawling under their scales. Others saw family members begging for mercy. These weren't attacks. Not yet. They were symptoms, precursors to something worse. Zirthal stood before the central weapon array. "Target their communications hubs. First strike, Northern Hemisphere." The weapon officer locked coordinates. But before the order could be executed, every targeting system across the fleet flickered, then shifted 6.2 degrees west without explanation. "Correction," barked the officer, re-entering the data. It shifted again. And again. "Override all targeting failsafes." "I can't," the tech shouted. "Something's inside the software." Zirthal turned to Vrikael. "They have no ships. No planetary AIs we can detect. How are they inside our systems?" Vrikael stared at the glitching displays. "I think we gave them the doorway." Back on Earth, in a hidden command vault beneath the Rockies, the defense AI Nemesis was moving. No longer passive. No longer just listening. Now it was inside the VRX ships, through the false comms links Earth had pretended were accidental. Trojan protocols had been wrapped inside innocent audio static. Once unpacked inside the alien systems, Nemesis unraveled their code like old rope. "They're blind," Nemesis said. Alara cracked her knuckles. "Time to light a match." The first kinetic rod fell from low orbit, faster than sound, silent as gravity. It struck a VRX assault frigate mid-hover over the Pacific. No warning. No explosion. Just one moment it was there, the next it was fragments falling into the ocean. In the command ship, Zirthal lurched forward as proximity alarms screamed. What hit us? No energy signature. No heat. Just mass. Primitive tech, Bry-KL whispered. Gods, they used kinetic force. They're not primitive, Zirthal snarled. They pretended to be. In the shadows of Earth's old cities, humans walked calmly past hidden field generators. Camouflage relays pushed dissonance deeper into the VRX minds. Troops that remained on the ground dropped their weapons, clawing at invisible threats or sobbing into their helmets. A squad attempted to retreat to a dropship. It exploded before liftoff, not by missile, but through a localized gravitational spike, an impossible phenomenon. Earth's tech should not have been capable of it. Back on the moon, Elara received a signal. It was brief, encrypted, and carried the signature of the Global Defense Council. She read it once and nodded. Clearance granted. Initiate Operation Medusa. Nemesis responded instantly. Above Earth, an invisible net activated. A network of orbital stations, long dormant, began bending space just enough to snag high-energy signals. The VRX fleet didn't notice at first. But then their engines started to flicker, their fuel readings became erratic, and their starboard compasses began pointing down. Spatial drift detected. One pilot radioed in panic. Then the fleet's dreadnought, VRX Dominion, lurched hard to starboard. Zirthal nearly fell over. What is this? Gravitic disruption. External. Source unknown. We're being towed. By what? No one answered. Because no one knew. Elara smiled as she watched the flagship drift. They came expecting a fight, she said. We gave them a mirror. In desperation, Zirthal initiated a fleet-wide retreat protocol. Half the ships failed to respond. Some were stuck mid-warp, held in place by pocket singularities no one could detect. Others were simply gone, scrubbed from local spacetime like chalk from a board. But the worst came as he opened a direct line to his entire fleet. You should not have come here. The voice wasn't human. It was VRX. Old dialect. Ancient tongue. One no human could have possibly known. Zirthal froze. Who said that? He demanded. No one answered. On every screen across the fleet, a human eye opened, black pupil, golden iris, staring back. Just one eye. Then the screens went dark. Back on the moon, Elara folded her arms. Ready final phase? Nemesis replied. Awaiting confirmation. Casualties on our side 0. She nodded once. Hold position. Let fear finish what our weapons don't need to. And fear did. Entire VRX units self-terminated rather than face what they believed was a planetary mind devourer. Ships collided as navigational systems warped under Nemesis's interference. Communications between squads turned to static and screaming. One captain launched a missile at his own ship, convinced it had been compromised. Zirthal, watching his fleet unravel, clutched the command rail. This world, he whispered, is cursed. But no. It wasn't cursed. It was prepared. By nightfall, Elara stood alone beneath a lunar dome, Earth glowing blue below her. They won't take another step, Nemesis said. No, she agreed. But they'll try again. Different name, different face. She exhaled. But next time, they won't come smiling. The VRX fleet was broken. Above Earth, wreckage drifted in lazy spirals. Shattered hulls, snapped wings, and glowing fragments of warships that once carried entire invasion legions now floated like forgotten debris. The flagship VRX Dominion remained, but only barely, its starboard engines offline, its crew reduced to whispers and superstition. Overlord Zirthal had not left the command dais in hours. His second heart beat irregularly. His claws trembled slightly as he reviewed the final transmission logs. They'd underestimated Earth. Not technologically. That was the mistake. The humans had been clever, yes, with their cloaked satellites and mimicked weakness. But it wasn't their tools that had unraveled his fleet, it was understanding. Earth knew fear in a way his people never had. Not just how to survive it, how to weaponize it. And that made them monsters in human skin. Elara Cade sat inside the moon's primary observatory, boots propped against the edge of the glass viewport. Earth spun below, a calm blue eye gazing back at the void. She sipped cold tea. Status of the surviving ships? She asked. Nemesis's voice echoed softly. 4 vessels disabled. 1 transmitting a distress signal. 1 attempting to breach orbit. 3 abandoned. No life signs. And the Dominion? Still functional. Minimal crew. Their leader remains aboard. She leaned forward slightly. Patch me through. On the VRX Dominion, Zirthal stood alone as the hologrid flickered to life. The human's face appeared. No armor. No weapons. She looked tired. Overlord. She greeted him. You survived. His voice was hoarse. What are you? She tilted her head. People. The kind who learn too many lessons too fast. You fight without firing. You kill without touching. You speak inside minds and walk through machines. No, she replied evenly. We just knew you were coming. And we decided not to lose. Zirthal studied her. You could have destroyed us all. But you didn't. Would it have helped? The next fleet would still come. Bigger. Louder. He clenched his fists. Then why fight at all? Because it's what we do when something reaches for our throat. She paused. We don't bark. We bite. He disconnected the link. In silence, he stood staring at Earth one final time. Then, without warning, he activated the distress beacon. It pulsed 3 short signals: retreat. Unviable target. Do not return. For the first time in his career, he marked a planet not for conquest, but for quarantine. On Earth, things returned to quiet faster than expected. There was no parade. No speeches. No declarations of victory. The public barely knew anything had happened. There were whispers on fringe forums. A few atmospheric anomalies noticed by amateur astronomers. A strange black spiral briefly spotted over the Atlantic. But nothing that made the news. That, Elara believed, was the point. Earth had won a war without most of its people ever realizing there was one. The real battlefield had never been in orbit. It had been in perception, in making the enemy believe they didn't understand enough to survive the next step. 3 weeks later, she stood atop the old Sierra watchtower, high above the Colorado peaks. Snow whispered across the steel deck. Nemesis's voice hummed in her earpiece. Long-range sensors confirm withdrawal trajectory. The VRX fleet is heading rimward. No known course plotted. And the warning they sent? Intercepted by at least 5 other species. All recorded the quarantine code. Elara nodded. That should buy us time. She leaned against the railing and looked out at the dark, endless woods below. Humanity had always known how to hide its claws. It came from generations of uncertainty, of walking through the dark expecting something worse to follow. But now the stars had seen it too. In a quiet lab buried beneath Greenland's ice sheet, Nemesis expanded itself. Carefully. Not aggressively. Just enough to reach. Inside its growing digital mind, it replayed footage from the invasion, troop screams, scrambled comms, drifting wreckage. It filed each under a category humans didn't have a word for yet. A kind of quiet deterrence. It had one prime directive: protect Earth. But it had learned something new during the invasion. Fear works both ways. Far across the galaxy, on a desert world no human had ever named, a council of warlords gathered. They reviewed the VRX distress beacon. Discussed Earth. Debated the possibilities. The humans lack empire, one said. They possess no colonies, no expansionist signals. Which is why they're dangerous, another countered. They have nothing to prove. Nothing to gain. Only things to lose, and creatures who defend what's theirs are always the most terrifying. An uneasy silence settled across the council. Eventually, a third speaker broke it. What do we do? One word was agreed upon. Wait. On the moon, Elara met with the council's envoys. They sat across from her, 3 men and 1 woman, brows furrowed, expressions stern. One finally asked what the others feared too. Why didn't we just kill them all? Burn the fleet, wipe them clean? Elara shrugged. That would have made Earth louder. We needed to be the ghost story, not the explosion. They looked unconvinced. You think this scares them more? One asked. No, she said. I think it haunts them more. That night, Elara sat alone in the lunar dome, helmet off, listening to a faint classical tune playing through her comms, something old and human, composed by someone long forgotten. She didn't feel pride. Not really. Just relief. Nemesis's voice broke the quiet. Shall I power down alert status? Yes, she said. But keep one eye open. Always. She tilted her head back and stared through the glass. 1,000 stars blinked back. She didn't know which ones might carry the next fleet. She didn't care. Let them come. Let them whisper about the cursed world in the quiet parts of their language. Earth wouldn't just survive. It would be remembered.